You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com, thechrisvossshow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends, gentlemen, ladies, children, people of all ages. Welcome to the big podcast circus tent in the sky, where we have the most amazing minds, brilliant thinkers, brightest people, and none of them are me. We have an amazing gentleman on the show. We're going to be talking about his latest book that's just coming out, and it's we're going to be talking about the pursuit of perfection, or maybe the pursuit of whatever. We'll get into his book and everything that goes into it, and I think it will be illuminating in your mind at expanding it on maybe how to be more happy in life. And so basically, if you don't want to be more happy in life, this probably isn't the show for you. But you should listen to the full show if you do want to be happy in life. And I'm sure you want your friends, neighbors, relatives, and dogs and cats to be happy as well, because they're just better to be around. And it makes Thanksgiving dinner go so much easier. Refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives as a setup I'm doing. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. Subscribe to that big LinkedIn newsletter. I think grows like a weed. Like every day I go in, I go, Jesus, what's going on over here? See us on TikTok, Chris Voss 1 and the Chris Voss Show podcast. And guess what? The new Facebook, Instagram Threads, which is a Twitter competitor, launched yesterday. And hopefully you're checking that out. It's going to give Elon Musk's Twitter a run for its money. So check us out over there. I'm there at Chris Voss Official and the Chris Voss Show. You may have heard of it, the Chris Voss Show. 14 years, 1,400 episodes. We're almost at 1,500, so I'm going to quit saying that. We have an amazing gentleman and mind on the show. He's the author of the newest book that's just come out, August 8th, 2023, The Perfection Trap, Embracing the Power of Good Enough. You know, not everyone can be me. Thomas Curran is on the show with us today. Did I get that last name right, Thomas?
You did, Chris. And can I just say, what an introduction. That's incredible. I'm super pumped now.
That's what we do on the show, baby. We super pump. So Thomas is an amazing gentleman. He is the associate professor in the Department of Psychological and Behavioral Science at the London School of Economics. He is a world-leading expert on perfectionism. So is he perfect, a perfectionist, a billionaire? We'll find out. He has written for the Harvard Business Review, featuring the New Scientist, and his work has been covered by publications including The Guardian, Telegraph, Wall Street Journal, and Arianna Huffington's Thrive Global campaign. There you go. In 2018, he gave a TED Med talk entitled Our Dangerous Obsession with Perfection is Getting Worse, and now he's here to talk to us about his latest book. Welcome to the show, Thomas. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. Very well.
There you go. Thank you for coming. We certainly appreciate it. Give us the .coms, wherever you want people to stalk you on the interwebs.
Okay, so my website is tomcurran.com. It's Tom spelled Thom. It's Curran spelled CURRAN.com. You can find me on Twitter, Tom, THOM_Curran, CURRAN. Or I'm on LinkedIn, Thomas-Curran.
There you go. So what motivated you to write this book?
Well, I've just been doing loads of research in this area for about a decade now. I sparked my interest really from a kind of personal experience with perfectionism. Struggled with it for a lot of my early life, putting a lot of pressure on myself, finding that I was turning into a bit of a obsessive when it came to work and play and all sorts of areas of my life, and it was having an impact on my mental health. So I thought, wouldn't it be interesting, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Maybe we can look at some research in the area of perfectionism. Wasn't a great deal there. So that was where it started.
There you go. So you've entitled the book, the book is entitled with the title, The Perfection Trap. Why is the seeking perfection a trap?
Well, perfection is by definition an impossible goal, right? So for those who's try, it's going to be forever beyond the possible. It's often nebulous. We can't really define it. I suppose it's like a bottomless pit, right? You just depletes us in its pursuit. And I feel like think about it like chasing the horizon. So, the closer you get, the further it gets away. And this is this kind of trap that we all find ourselves in when we're pursuing something that's just impossible to attain. So that's really the perfection trap.
There you go. And so why is this an issue for us? I mean, it seems like, there might be a lot of people that strive for perfection. We kind of see this Instagram world we talked about earlier in the green room where, everyone tries to present themselves as perfect. We have these influencers that, buy these fake sets of private planes and rent cars for the day and take pictures of them. And there's this fake persona that we seem to be building out of PR, and everybody kind of buys it, especially here in America, where everyone's like, oh, that guy must really be a millionaire. And, like, seriously, I'm not even kidding you. I've had coaches that I thought were killing it, and they were talking about their big people they were doing. And two of them that I know of were actually finally came out and told everyone they were living out of their car for the past couple of years. I'm not even kidding you. And yet they'd been faking it. And I felt really betrayed. I never given them my money, but I believe they were successful. I'm like, why are these guys so successful? Because some of their stuff is crap. But, we live in this. I think there might be something about millennials and Gen Z where they adopted this. I think millennials they adopted this fake it till you make it attitude, only they took it just like a little too far. What do you think about that?
Well, it's funny because, living inside a culture, right, we scarcely recognize its absurdities, right, because we're just consumed and surrounded by it. And if perfection is everywhere and you see perfection everywhere, you're going to think that it's your responsibility to be perfect too. It's a bit like Lance Armstrong, when the doping scandal blew up, and he told Oprah Winfrey that he did it because everyone else was doing it, right? Like, so how we behave, even if it's unhealthy, right, even if it's something that's imperiling our health, like this kind of impossible pursuit of perfection, if everyone else is doing it, Chris, then of course we're going to respond to try to do it ourselves. And I think that's what happens right now in modern culture, where we've kind of got ourselves in this echo chamber, this sort of arms race where everyone is perfect, and so we expect ourselves to be perfect too.
And I don't know, was to clarify on that topic, was that a cop out that he was doing? Because I don't think everyone's juicing on the French tour or whatever it is.
I think at the time, like, it was pretty widespread. Yeah, I think it's generally accepted that most of the peloton had some help. Yeah, pretty. Not everyone. There were like some valiant examples who stayed off, but then they got nowhere near the top, right? So in order to win, you kind of had to do it.
He kind of took more. So what creates this culture of perfection, fear of missing out, fear of not being, is it a peer pressure? Is it just a societal pressure? Is it a keeping up with the Joneses? That's really big here in America. Why is this such a big deal for us? Why can't we, why couldn't you just named your book, The Perfection Trap, Embracing the Good Power of, whatever.
Well, okay, I'll give you a really profound answer to this. The reason why we do this is because if we don't, the implications for our economy would be quite catastrophic. Because think about it like this, right? The economy spins on an axis of consumption. Right? We need to consume more goods and services because that creates jobs, which creates more goods and services, which creates jobs, and so on and so on, right? This is how the capitalist growth-based economies work. And they've worked remarkably well. But what we're seeing at the moment is kind of almost the end point of this process, where essentially everybody has to really feel a sense of discontent, has to need to try to improve their lives, have more, do better, be more productive, because essentially without those behaviors, our economy would collapse. And so really, I think if you want to get at the root of this, it's this kind of focus and almost kind of morbid dependency that our economy has on growth and at all costs. And I think what we're seeing in young people at the moment is really a natural response to that, where, they're told all the time through advertising, social media, schools, colleges, whatever it might be, you need something more, you need to do more, you need to be more, you need to have more, you need to work more, you need to consume more. Right. And I think that they're really just internalizing that as in pressures to be perfect. And I think that's what we're seeing. Now we can get more granular about, how that's expressed in the specific areas, but like the root, I think that's where it's coming from.
There you go. Hi, folks. Here's Voss here with a little station break. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. We'll resume here in a second. I'd like to invite you to come to my coaching, speaking, and training courses website. You can also see our new podcast over there at chrisvossleadershipinstitute.com. Over there, you can find all the different stuff that we do for speaking engagements if you'd like to hire me, training courses that we offer, and coaching for leadership, management, entrepreneurism, podcasting, corporate stuff. With over 35 years of experience in business and running companies as CEO. And be sure to check out chrisvossleadershipinstitute.com. Now back to the show. So in the book, do you address, why we have these obsessions and maybe how to resolve them or square them in our mind to maybe be a little more healthy? One thing I did for years is I was so busy pursuing, success and money and building companies that I really didn't take care of myself or my happiness. My health, I let my health suffer. I let, being present in my world with the people I loved suffered. Everything was like, I'm working on perfection. I'll fix all this other shit later.
Yeah, I think if we're always searching for the next thing, we never can exist in the moment. And what you said there is absolutely right. The route to happiness is to really try and let go of all those societal pressures, to obviously acknowledge them. And, we're going to succumb often. And, and sometimes actually it's fine. If you want to consume, you want to buy a nice car, that's all, if it makes you happy, great, do it. Why not?
Sure.
But you can't let it completely take over your life. I think that's the thing, you have to kind of have some separation between, wanting to do more, striving to be better, but also appreciating that in this moment that you're enough. Like what you have right now means that you're enough. And that's a beautiful thing to understand. And it doesn't mean that you can't want to do more. It just means that you can accept and appreciate and have gratitude for the things that you do have in this moment. And that's a really hard thing to do in this culture, but it is the way to happiness.
Yeah, I think people see it I'll ask you, is the problem that people see it as black and white? You're either striving for perfection and being a go-getter and whatever at all costs, or if you're a person who's like has gratitude and like, okay, I'm good enough as I am, and I'm a great person, and I'm going to strive to be better and improve myself in the ways that I want to improve myself. And some people see that as like, well, you're not chasing the dream.
We're not making
black and white that we're not finding the gray area of like, you can still do both.
Yeah, I think the thing is, you're not making something of yourself. You're not making something of yourself, man. You got to make something of yourself. Who doesn't want to make something of themselves? And I think, this pressure at all times to continue to, break new ground, work hard, prove ourselves every day that, we're worth something in this world. And being worth something means having loads of stuff, working really hard, grinding, hustling, whatever it might be. I think those are really life pressures. That's how we feel. All the time. I feel that all the time. I'm sure your listeners do too. It's quite natural. It's quite normal. But there's, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not about saying, okay, well, ditch all that kind of, that kind of sense of striving. What it's about is trying to understand that is not the be all and end all. That should not consume your whole identity. Your life should not be wrapped in more, bigger, better, and proving to other people all the time that you're worth something. It should really be about, like you said, this kind of inner sense of contentment that, I'm going to try, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to try and be the best that I can be. And I know there's going to slip up and I know I'm going to fail, but that's okay. Life's a bit of a jagged path and it's okay. So you got to approach your life with a bit more serenity. And I think sometimes it's really difficult, as I said, in this culture.
Definitely. Especially in American culture, I don't know how much you have the Instagram going on over there. I know you have a guy pretending to be king or something over there. I don't know what's going on lately, but I don't know. There was a queen, and then there's like some new guy, and then every now and then you guys. I think I've been impressed. You guys have stuck with a prime minister now for at least over a month, so that's going good for you. So you guys are pretending to be a country over there. So
I'm convinced like nothing's real. Like it isn't happening. I'm in the Truman Show. Like what's happening in the UK and the monarchy and the prime, like that's just a fiction, and there's some kind of detachment because this moment it can't be real. It can't be real.
Yeah. It's it's interesting. It's interesting to watch, and I'm sure we are too. But like we don't care. We're just America. But no, we in America we have a real big thing with keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the neighbors. The neighbor gets a boat, we got to get a boat. You know, I know a lot of people who have this sincere drive and belief that they can be Elon Musk, and they don't realize how narrow and rare and what a lottery hit that is.
Yep.
To get a perfect run, and most times they don't even understand that people like him and others that succeed usually grew up with money, family, money, power, and a good seed, and a lot of times they just got fucking incredibly lucky. I mean, but they still have this delusion and this drive that I will be Elon Musk someday. I had that same sort of thing. I thought I was going to be a multimillionaire. There's a famous line from Fight Club where I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Fight Club, but there's a line in it where Brad Pitt says the line, we're a generation of men who were raised thinking that we're all going to be rock stars and millionaires told us by advertisers, movies, television, and we're finding out that we got lied to, and we're not very happy about it. And I think it's worse with this new generation because social media can be such a fakery. It's so fake. Everything. I think a comedian said once that when archaeologists dig up our society from years from now, because God knows it's not going to survive at this pace, they're going to go, holy shit, the whole society smiled 100% of the time because all their pictures show them fucking smiling and perfect filters. And they have this filter thing now on TikTok where I can, if I put the filter on, I probably look like a Victoria's Secret model. Like it can make any woman, any person look like a Victoria's Secret model, like they're 20 again. And it's just like the ultimate catfishing. And they're all, and most all of them are using some sort of filter thing, even in my dating pools. And you're just like you can't trust anything anymore. But it's just striving for perfection and having this image, and everyone's a brand now. I think is a big problem too. I mean, basically you're a brand now. So if you're on Instagram, if you're on a dating, everything is a brand. So you're a brand and you're pushing your brand. Your brand has to be perfect if you want to succeed, and you have to get the perfect followers and blah, 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 blah. But there's a madness to it that's just extraordinary. And I think highly unhealthy because I think at some point, most people become deluded that they are as great as they think they are, or they imagine that they're presenting on social media.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great synopsis, by the way, of American culture, and I would say that this is the economy working exactly how it's supposed to work. Like this idea that we need more, we must do more, we have to project more, and that we must be competing all the time with everyone and all around us. And I'll take you back to the point you were making about expectations for success and these kind of high profile business people, because that's really interesting. Kind of follows this kind of idea of meritocracy that, if you work hard, you put the effort in, you're going to get to the top. Now, what's really interesting in America and in the UK, 60s, 70s, and the post-war, the New Deal, post-war consensus, there was capacity and slack in the economy. You had baby boom generation coming through. There was healthy rates of growth year on year. People could move up the social ladder, and they did. There was a burgeoning middle class. Inequality was the lowest it's been, and people did get richer. They did ascend. They did lift themselves up from the bootstraps. However, we still have the same folklore today, but a completely different economy. And what young people are seeing right now is they're hearing that, look, if you just do this, you can have a good life, you can be rich and all the rest of it. But actually that's being met with the stone cold reality of an economy that just isn't giving them anywhere near as much opportunity and potential as has been previous generations. Psychologically, can you imagine that for young people, right?
Yeah.
That's really tough. They're working really hard, but they can't get a house because housing's too expensive, or especially in the big cities, right? They have to extend time when they're having their family because they now need 2 incomes, right? They don't need rather than one. That's how it used to be, right? So there's a constant strain and stress that even though they're putting so much into this world, they're not getting the same amount back. And this is massively weighing on their perfectionism, their identities as kind of embrace the grind set. You got to hustle. My identity, I basically treat myself like an asset to be traded on the job market floor, right? I don't have a career anymore. I just jump from gig to gig to gig to gig, and I hustle and grind. And this is just a completely like whole new world of ever increasing expectations, pressures, and young people, and everyone actually, but young people in particular, are internalizing these pressures as pressure to be perfect. And I don't think we can blame them.
There you go. I think, you mentioned our economy and how it works. Well, let's get this out of the way first. Do we just need to eliminate the word perfection and say we're striving to be better? We want more, we're striving to more, but this madness of being perfect. Like, I know people that they have tried to turn every bit of, the toilet paper has to be in the right place, and has to be, perfectly whatever. And then the paper towels have to be there, and nothing can be in a place. Everything has to be, I've had friends that are really ADHD. And so if you go to their house and you take their pictures and you just squeak them a notch, or whatever the word is, you just twist them a notch, it will drive them mad. Like, you'll literally see them go spend an hour putting that thing back to balance, and not realizing you fuck with them. So I'm evil. What can I say? I learned it from some friends, but I've had friends that, you can't have a spot on the thing. I've had girlfriends that if you spill just a minuscule amount of whatever on the counter, and you haven't cleaned it up in the first 5 seconds that it's spilt, oh my God, the world's going to end. It's a nuclear catastrophe. It's an emotional crisis. And there are men and women, there are people that operate that way. Do we need to take, just this whole madness of perfection and just be like, I don't know, you got to be like, who's that Jack Handy guy or whatever from SNL, where you look in the mirror and you go, I'm good enough. People like me.
Yeah, like, I think it's so true. I struggle with it. I've had struggled with perfectionism pretty much all my adult life. So, it's not easy to let it go when your whole life you feel like it's the one thing holding you up, but everything and all around you seems to be collapsing. Your perfectionism is one thing pushing you forward. It's making you successful and all the rest of it. So, letting something like that go, something as important that to you go, is really difficult. But I can only tell you from my own experience that if you're able to just take a step back, let life in a little bit, let life happen to you a little bit, rather than trying to happen all the time in the world. Accept that you're fallible, that I'm exhaustible, that I am going to age and decay and get wrinkles and gray hairs and all the rest of it. And this is normal, and this is natural, and this is just, this is the life course of all living beings, including humans, by the way. And in America, we try and push past that as much as we possibly can. Don't do that. Just embrace that common humanity, because you will feel so rejuvenated and find so much solace in the acceptance that we are just fallible human beings. And so that's the biggest thing, I think, for us all to remember.
And you address in the book, I think, the fallout from this. People who have abject burnout, depression, and you mentioned the book. We're at record levels of that, which we are. Welcome to America. Everyone's on Prozac here. Talk to us a little about that and how this drive contributes to that, and why people might be struggling right now. Because there's probably somebody out there going, I'm about losing my mind here.
Yeah, America is the world champion at all things, good and not so good. If there's an extreme, it'll be in America. And and what we're seeing is that exactly as you said, like high and rising levels of perfectionism in response to the things we talked about. Young people feeling those pressures, and that's really what my research rose to prominence on the back of, really, this kind of finding that young people, and interestingly, social perfection, we call it social prescribed perfectionism. This is a sense that other people expect me to be perfect, right? So, then they're watching me and they're judging me. This element of perfection is really, really taking off, and we're on an exponential curve, right? So we're really flying now with this one. And that's kind of worrying, because that's the most extreme form of perfectionism. It's the most highly correlated with significant mental distress. So if you didn't want to see any form of perfectionism growing, it would have been that one, but that is the one that's going, unfortunately.
I know that men and women have two different drives, or well, everything is a drive to propagation of the species. Women have a drive to, use their beauty agency to look better. They buy all the makeup. It drives our economy. What women buy. I think they control like most of the money and buying power in America. I think it's like 80 or 90%.
Yeah.
If they're married, they're usually the one doing the buying and stuff. And women buy a lot of stuff. I mean, they consume a lot. They buy stuff for the household. They buy stuff for makeup. They're usually taking care of all that stuff. But they're also working on their agency, their beauty agency. I've asked people, I'm like, if you're married, why are you putting makeup on every day and going out? So they're really focused on that and how they present. For men, we have a different agency where our world looks at us from what resources we provide and what we contribute. We're not beauty objects. Have you seen me lately?
You look great, Chris.
Thank you.
You're looking great.
I appreciate it. Okay. Flattery will get you everywhere. I go to the gym now, so it's good. But we're not worth a lot as men in our younger years. We have to build a great job, build a good career, get a good income going. It takes us longer to kind of do things because we have to build things. We're not born into beauty. And so we don't really hit our peak value to society till about 45, 55, because that's when our peak earning is. We're looked to be providers and protectors. So, in women's hypergamy, they want us to earn more than they do. And so they're looking for a guy who's got this going on. And I had this problem when I was young. I mean, when I was a junior or sophomore in school, I wanted to date fellow sophomore girls. Well, they weren't interested in that. They wanted to date the guy with the car, the senior, the guy who's going and doing stuff in life and having fun, and they didn't want to date the guy who's coming up. And so men are on this journey where we're trying to build this life, build this resource, give that signaling, if you will, to women that, hey, I got it going on and I'm going places in my life, I'm buying the nice car and blah blah blah. And women look for that. I mean, there are dating pools when we're like, okay, what's your job, what's your college, what's your income, what's your how good of a provider are you going to be? That's how it works. And then women are doing their thing to buy. And it really drives our economy because everyone's buying shit. Like, I meet people that it's like, hey, I bought another purse for 10 grand. It's some fashion person. I'm like, how many of these do you have? I have 20 or 50 of them. I'm like, Jesus Christ. At one point, like, do you, I've had girlfriends where I go in the closet and I'm like, every closet in this home is filled with your clothes going back to the 60s and 70s or something. I'm old. What can I say? And so basically I'm like, you're never going to wear any of this stuff, and women are by nature harvesters. It all comes down to caveman stuff. So hunter gatherer, it's all that shit going on. And so men are hunters. We go out and hunt stuff down and all that good stuff. So it's interesting how it all drives our economy. At what point do we say, hey man, just calm the fuck down? And I mean, is that just going to kill our economy? Is it going to crash if we all just collectively one day go, we got enough shit? Quit ordering shit on Amazon all the time.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you say, we're hunter gatherers. I think for me, like the modern equivalent of that is, can you like back in a lorry driver, or do you have to get your dad to go and do it? Like this is. I come from a small town, so this is our vocabulary. Like, and now I'm in a middle class world. If I try and back in the lorry driver, he's like, go and get your dad. It'll do for a Joe. Don't need this second.
Wow.
So now I feel like quite emancipated sometimes, being in a different world from where my working class roots, where everyone's like, all the rest of it. So it's funny you should say that, because there's definitely that goes on. Now your question was this is it the economy? Like, is it driving what we're seeing? And I think that's absolutely true. I think women definitely are targeted a lot by consumerism, by advertising, for the reasons that you stated. And so, we don't see any differences in perfection across men and women, which is interesting. But certainly they are definitely way more targeted than men when it comes to like appearance, how does she look, how does she behave, all the rest of it. And so, the interaction of their perfectionism with that world can create a lot of distress and worries about, how they look and self-presentational concerns. And all of those things, we see way higher levels in women than we do in men. And so I think, it's certainly true that that's the case. And this is why, there is a big drive among young women now to try to kind of push back on that a little bit, this kind of be real movement, show our authentic selves, all the rest of it. I think we've got a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but nevertheless, like, there seems to be some kind of counterculture going on at the moment, which I think is quite good news. When it comes to males, we are still bombarded with other expectations, and I would say actually in more recent years, we too have been a little bit, exposed to some of these more image-based ideas, particularly younger men. You've got to look a certain way. You've got to have that sculptured body. You've got to go to the gym, and you've got to eat the right foods, and you've got to have the right skin regime and all the rest of it. Like, so I think it's coming for men a little bit. But we, it is true to say that we're not quite, it's not quite as vociferous as it is for young women.
It's getting there. There's these TikTok ads they've had about men's skin and facial skin and like stuff that they can use for their skin, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Better underwear.
Your skin looks great, Chris. I want to know what your skin regime is.
I don't know. I don't know. Take a shower every couple days or something.
There you go.
But I do go to the gym. I mean, that helps. But I don't know. I've been kind of blessed. But with my health and stuff, I don't know. I don't know how to have that perfect skin. I got crow's feet or crow's wrinkles or eyes or whatever the hell I call them. Got a little bit of turkey neck going from losing weight. But no, it's interesting to me. So what's the best way, and people need to read your book, of course, to learn more about this, but is gratitude gratitude was one thing I kind of learned by having gratitude. It helped me actually get more, because it helped me kind of say, there's enough, I'm whole, I'm present, and how can I improve myself? And instead of trying to chase what the advertisers show me, because I learned a long time ago, being in the advertising business, when advertisers show like something in, say, Vogue, they show a woman in a beautiful dress, and there's a guy who's always kind of behind her. The guy's always secondary in the advertising. And so the women will look at that and go, I want that dress. I want to be as beautiful as that woman there. And the guy looks at the girl and goes, I want that girl. So I got to dress like that guy in the background with the suit and tux or, whatever the hell he's wearing to get that girl. And that's how we think. Women aren't like, I want to get that guy, so I got to get that, get that dress. They're just like, I want to get that dress, so I look beautiful. And so it's interesting, that drive that goes in behind it. There's a certain point where you just go, hey man, just choose what you want to do. So like I choose to, I go to the gym, I work out, I eat a really healthy diet. I eat beets, broccoli. What else is on my daily regimen? I go sit out in the sun 20 minutes a day for vitamin D. There's Brussels sprout. There's a whole diet thing that I have now that's very salad and farm friendly. In fact, I get raw milk from the milk store, and local farms. I get all my salad and my fruits and vegetables. And, but I focus on what I want. What I'm trying to say is I'm not busy with the Vogue stuff and the crap that gets fed to me. Hey, do you want better skin? Drink Coke and snort it. I don't know, whatever. Right. I just bullshit with all that, fuck you with your little advertisements there. And I see what angle you're playing at me. And so I just kind of focus on what I want to do and things that make me better. And I'm not only competing with anybody on it, I'm actually competing with myself, really, when it comes down to it. Like when I go to the gym, I'm not trying to look like, the liver king, because I'd have to take roids for that. What I'm competing with is against myself. And I'm like, can I do an extra 5 pounds today? That sort of thing, and move up in those increments.
Yeah. Well,
is that healthier?
Absolutely. Like those are life enhancing experiences. right? They're things that, you get a sense of mastery from, like, I'm getting fitter. So that's really good. Every time I go, I'm getting a little bit stronger. I'm feeling healthier because it's flushing endorphins through my body. I'm feeling more alive. I'm feeling more vital. I can concentrate better. I'm looking after myself in terms of my diet. So, my digestive system is working a bit better, and I'm feeling like, that's having an impact on all sorts of things. We know gut health is so important to mental health and physical health. So, all of these things, they have like a compounding impact, right? Like each one on their own might seem, just a kind of another lifestyle thing, but if you add them all together, you get such an immense sense of purpose and I suppose health. Now that's very different to what most of those things that we're talking about, by the way, are free. You can do them for no cost. Obviously you got to pay for the gym membership and you got to buy your groceries or whatever, but on the whole, you go out in the sun, that doesn't cost you anything. You go for a run, it doesn't cost you anything. What's really curious is a lot of these things don't really cost a great deal and they bring so much to our lives, and yet that $30,000 handbag or whatever, it costs the world. And yet, what does it do beyond that kind of 5-minute hit of happiness, right? And then it evaporates and then it's gone as if it didn't exist in the first place. So, you're absolutely right. It's really about finding things in your life that fulfill you, things that make you healthier and happier, and trying as much as you can to avoid the lure, being lured back into those kind of quick hits, those kind of dopamine hits. That's like, I've got to buy this, I feel better, and now I feel shitty again. So like that's the biggest. That's hard, as I say. I keep saying this, but it's an important point because in this culture, you're bombarded with those pressures. But if you can just, sit back and focus on other things that are much more life enhancing, then you are going to feel a lot better.
There you go. It makes all the difference in the world. And, it's interesting. I'll talk to people and they'll buy stuff and I'll be like, that doesn't really make you more attractive, especially with men. Like, we don't care. We don't, I'll see these women, they pay for these Louis Vuitton or, Christian, whatever. I clearly have no fashion sense or care. But, you'll hear that they'll spend like thousands on a shoe and you're just like, as men, we really don't care. Like, we just don't care. Not like there's no woman I've ever met and been like, you're really hot and you're really a cool person and have a great personality and everything's put together on you. But those shoes, that's not going to work. That dress, no, that's not going to work. Never happens. But I think we need to have more gratitude. We need to have more basic stuff. I think maybe we need to take control of what we want, as opposed to, the bullshit that's sold to us for advertising. Because, Jesus, if you went out and bought every bullshit item that's been offered that will make your life better, you're still going to be unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of this economy, right? It can never be enough. Because if it was enough, right, think about it, right? If it was enough and we stopped consuming and everybody felt a sense of purpose and happiness, then people are going to lose their jobs in very short order, right? The advertiser is going to lose the job. The person who delivers the goods to the shop is going to lose their job. The person that sells is going to lose their job. So you're going to see this quick downward cascade of the whole economy if we don't have these feelings. So this is why, I'll go back to this point about it being quite profound, but, it is the case that we have to trade our present happiness for something more in order to keep the whole show on the road. And we have to keep doing that. And people that are able to step away from that, I have some admiration, because it's so tough, because there's so much bombardment and pressure going on. But, this is just the way the economy works and this is how it is. And, I think if we can appreciate that, understand that, and try as hard as we can to find purpose within that society, that's the route to happiness. But as I said, I just want to be clear, right? Like, it doesn't mean that you have to kind of completely rid yourself of all these trappings of modern life. Like, sometimes it's fine. If you want to get a Rolex, no problem. Like, if that makes you feel good, like, do it for the right reasons, Like,
exactly.
It's a sense of accomplishment, It's like, okay, I worked really hard, I got this paycheck, I'm going to treat myself, right? And it's a fulfillment. Like, it's reward for the hard work, not just because you wanted to like show it off or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So it's I'm not completely anti-capitalist at all. I think it's absolutely the right thing for people to want nice things in their lives. But I'm just saying, we have to understand that there's also a bigger picture, and the bigger picture is that the way we feel is because we kind of have to feel it.
Yeah. And we have huge amounts of depression. In fact, they've shown that especially young women, that are in their teens and stuff, looking at Instagram and seeing this perfect world, this fake presentation, the pressure that they put on themselves is even more extraordinary, and it's very hard. So basically what you're saying is we need to be like Saturday Night Live's Stuart Smalley, which is Al Franken back in the day, who became center, where we just say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
we need to, like the advertiser's not going to be very pleased, and sooner or later the president's going to have a few problems with that too. But
economy goes to the toilet.
But he goes, but if we want to be happy, absolutely, that kind of acceptance. And I think actually, you know what, like, here's the thing, economies are already slowing down anyway, right? Aging populations, overhang of debt, the global era of globalization is coming to an end where goods were just imported on the cheap, right? That's getting more expensive to do that now. So this is why we're seeing inflation, by the way. This is one of the reasons, not just because of these geopolitical issues. And so I think what we have to do is kind of see this as a bit of an opportunity, right? Like, we're getting this secular stagnation and it's really freaking people out. It's like, oh my God, like, how do we get more growth? This is, but actually why can't we learn to kind of try and exist and live within a economy where we have abundance, and we kind of live in a kind of sustainable, almost circular economy where sometimes GDP will go up, that's great, sometimes it won't, sometimes it'll stay flat, that's also fine. We can tolerate that. We don't always have to grow all the time. We live in an era of abundance. We've kind of solved the scarcity problem through economic growth, so it's been worth it. But now we have to understand how we're going to land the plane. And I think sometimes, it's okay for us to take these challenges of, like, we don't always have to organize our economy in this way. Sometimes we can, like, take a step back. We can figure it's good enough. And actually, maybe that should be the target for policymakers moving forward. I don't know.
There you go. Have you ever, last question, have you ever studied the minimalist movement? I think there's some guys who did a book that are really popular, run a podcast about the minimalists. You ever studied those folks? And what are your thoughts on it?
I've heard of the movement. I would kind of say I've done too much research into them, but I get the principles, going back to basics. Enough is plenty and all that sort of thing. Like, I can get on board with it. Again, I'm not sure if I myself would be able to go the extreme live inside a box kind of thing. But nevertheless, I would say there's some value to that. And I'm sure I'd be interested to know, like, what it's like psychologically and how those, how do those people feel free? Do they feel liberated? I think it'd be an interesting experiment.
They focus on kind of what you talk about. They focus on buying what they want, not overextending themselves, paying cash. You buy a couch. Okay, there you go. You got a couch. You don't need to be buying another one next week and one next year. And you do you really need the Range Rover? The Land Rover, or whatever. Do you really need the Mercedes Benz? If you want to buy one, like you say, if you want to buy a Rolex or you want to buy a Mercedes, buy one. But, I lived my life too when I became successful where I was buying everything. And it was the old line from Fight Club again, where it was like, we buy things to impress people that don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I was buying BMWs and houses and all this stuff and throwing parties at my house to impress people. And people would just be like, whatever. And, I would even date people that would be like, why do you have to have a big house in in the canyon and the BMWs? And I'd be like, well, I grew up poor and I'm doing this to kind of heal what I thought was a wound. But I also, I thought it was impressive people. And then after a while, I'm like, no one really gives a fuck. And they don't care,
So true.
True. So why am I breaking my craziness? And we see these people here, the prices of cars went through the roof here in America. I'm sure that maybe they did over on your end of the pond.
They did, yeah.
And we see these young people that half their income is going towards a car. It's one of the reasons they can't buy a house, because they've got like $1,500 to $2,000 a month car payments.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, just buy like a used old car, man. You don't need to have the 2023 fucking whatever, man. Like, you just need something to get you from A to Z. In my day and age, you bought a car to impress chicks.
Yeah.
But you bought a muscle car or something. You didn't buy like, I don't know, a Kia. I think we just lost all 5 people in our key audience.
It's a very metro car.
They're like,
It's
damn it, I'm never getting laid.
very
Anyway.
functional. No, I certainly. I mean, look, do you know what? When what you said there, like, completely resonates with me. Like, I grew up poor too, and I spent my whole life really trying to compensate or overcompensate for that. Young adulthood, one of the reasons that I suffered with perfectionism was because I was trying to lift myself above all these middle class kids who I just felt was so much better, so much articulate, had so much going for them, and I drove myself crazy because this insecurity, like this inferiority that I felt deep inside of me that I just needed to soothe. And I get it, like I totally get it. But I kind of feel like I've had the epiphany that you've had. It's just it doesn't make you any happier, and at the end of the day, like, you don't really get anywhere anyway. It's a hopeless quest. So just try and be happy. That's the message.
And you mentioned about, trying to keep up with your friends who appear to be successful. I think one of the problems we have in our culture is we see people on the outside on what they're presenting, and we don't see the internal fucking horror show that's probably going on there. Like, we had a gentleman, Mauricio, I forget his last name, but he's married to one of those Beverly Hills, Housewives of Beverly Hills chicks. And women love that show, and it just looks like all the women are just rolling in money and stuff. And lately, we've been finding out they're all bankrupt and going to jail for not paying their taxes and stuff. They're not really all that. And he was married for, I think it's 27 years or something. And he came on the show. He was really gracious, and it talked about his marriage and I love, and so great. He's getting divorced now, right? And I think she's running off with, I think, another woman or something, or whatever the rumors are. And so you don't see, like, you see these people and present it, you don't know what sort of horror show might be going on in their personal life.
Yeah, and that's only exacerbated with social media, right? Because social media is given the perfect platform for us to curate perfect lives and lifestyles in the way that we want others to see. But what goes on underneath is obviously not that reality. And that, by the way, that's really psychologically problematic, because it creates a very deep disconnect between who we want, the perfect person in our mind's eye that we want other people to see, and the imperfect person we really are, right? And that creates a lot of conflict, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension, because all the time we're faking it. Fake it till you make it, right? We started the show. Like, all the time you're going through life faking the perfect life, knowing deep down that you are not this perfect person that you're projecting, and trying to disguise this imperfect person everywhere you go. Psychologically, that's really problem. One of the reasons we're seeing many of these issues of anxiety, depression, is because of this alienation, this self-alienation, the sense that we're not with ourselves. We're trying to be somebody else, somebody perfect. And I think social media has a lot to say about this, but it's definitely a societal problem.
There you go. Well, everyone should order your book up and read about it. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interweb, sir.
It's Tom Curran, so THOMCURRAN.com.
There you go. Thank you very much, Thomas, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
There you go. And folks, not everyone can be perfect like me. I mean, there's only been 2 of us in the history of the world, and we know what they did with the first guy. It was perfect. And I don't know, they're still working on building something out for me, evidently, from what I hear. The Perfection Trap. You can order wherever fine books are sold. Embracing the Power of Good Enough. Or in my case, whatever. So there you go. It's available August 8th, 2023, wherever fine books are sold. Order it up. Learn to have a healthier mindset to this stuff, people. Have some balance and gratitude in life. Enjoy the ride. One of the things we didn't talk about, I'll throw this in here in the show, last end of the show, fuck it. One of the problems I had in my youth, in my early life, adult life, was, I just lost it. Was basically enjoying the journey, because I was always after the goal. And people would be like, Chris, it's not about the goal. It's about enjoying the journey. Take some time to look around. Take some time to enjoy yourself. That's what I'm telling you. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys